Hello and welcome to TechEd. I'm just reading this very interesting book about opportunities and risk of quantum technologies. And I was thinking, like, how many years will it take until HANA Cloud runs on quantum computers? I think that's a great idea, and it will open a lot of opportunities. But today, let us talk about the recent innovations and the upcoming new features that we have planned for HANA Cloud. And why don't you join me on my desk? I'm Jörg Glatzer. I'm part of the HANA Product Management Organization. And I would like to walk you through HANA Cloud, the architecture as kind of an introduction, and then give you some information about what we have planned for the upcoming future, not necessarily quantum computing, but for the near term and midterm future. And of course, let me also share what we have just recently released. Let's start with a quick introduction. I don't know how many know HANA and HANA Cloud as a managed database as a service that helps customers to run their mission-critical processes, build applications. So HANA in essence, or HANA Cloud in essence, is what we all know from HANA. It's an in-memory columnar-based database. But for HANA Cloud, we have built in a lot of extensions and enhancements that makes it a real database as a service, what we say a native cloud database. For example, in addition to the classic in-memory column store, we have added what's called the native storage extension that allows customers to unload data onto disk and save memory, which is a good reason or a good means to reduce TCO. In addition to the in-memory part, for HANA Cloud, we have added the so-called HANA Data Lake, which is a structured database kind of that helps to store big amounts of data, and we have extended that even into what's called the data lake relation on files, so we can store data not only in structured form in a kind of database, but we can also store data on files, we can store data in object stores. So this is what you see underneath that kind of like the data pyramid, how we call it, that allows the tiered storage between in-memory, data storage extension, and the data lake, relational data lake, and data lake on files. But you can also even go further, having virtual access to different data sources, replicating data from different data sources, be it SAP applications, be it non-SAP applications, be it IoT devices, in the idea of Industry 4.0, that you can also load this kind of data, replicate this kind of data, or provide a virtual access to this kind of data and keep it in their original storage. HANA, beside the in-memory column store, contains of a lot of engine, what we call multi-model engines. That's the multi-model capabilities of HANA Cloud. That includes spatial, that includes graph, well known from HANA on-premise version since like a decade even. We have also a document store that stores data in a JSON format. And we will soon add a so-called vector engine and a vector store onto HANA Cloud. Some of you might have seen the keynote by Jürgen Müller today in the morning where he introduced the HANA Cloud Vector Engine. I will talk about that later on. Also, we have the so-called advanced analytics capabilities of HANA, which includes AutoML functions, machine learning capabilities with the predictive analysis library that we have. It allows for modeling with the technologies and tools that we have in place to build analytical models that are optimized for running on HANA on the different engines. And we have capabilities for text processing like search, text mining. These capabilities are used by various applications running on top of HANA Cloud, which is first and foremost the SAP Analytics Cloud. It is the newly introduced SAP DataSphere. And there's also a bunch of SAP applications and services. As we also have heard in the morning, there are more than 165 services on BTP that are already running on HANA Cloud or using HANA Cloud as the execution and persistency engine. In addition to that, customers and partners are building applications. We have third-party applications that have been built by partners and provisioned to our customers. What we also have is still, like we know from HANA on-premise, is the so-called smart integration, which comes with the technology, well-known and mature technology like smart data integration and smart data access. And it's been extended by the capabilities of the data integration services. And of course, if DataSphere is running on top, then you also have the integration capabilities and data flow capabilities that we offer as part of the DataSphere offering. So that'll be kind of an introduction to set the stage on where we are with HANA Cloud, what is HANA Cloud, and now let's look at what we have just recently delivered. And it's been like almost a year, and time is flying since last TechEd, and we have delivered like more than 115 innovations. This is a screenshot from the SAP Roadmap Explorer. There's a link on the lower left corner where it's been accessible. And you see that there's so many innovations that we have delivered, which we are very proud of. And I've taken some of them, which I wanted to go a little bit deeper into. So first of all, and there's a lot talk about application development. There's a lot talk about low-code and no-code and pro-code application development. With HANA Cloud, developers can build powerful applications leveraging the multi-model and the analytic capabilities of HANA. And they can start with kind of a low-code approach. And the more they are getting experience, the more they can move into or pivot into a pro-code development environment where they can build at their own pace, they can build their full-blown applications. Another very interesting enhancement that we have delivered during the recent quarters is the including of spatial functions into the graph engine, where you have vertices and edges, and now you can add geometry information to graphs, which allows then to combine this, which allows to build powerful analytics using the GraphScript language that also includes functions all around geometry data. And with that, you can easily identify like best routes, you can avoid areas, which is a bit shown here on the screenshot, that you can, like there's restricted areas that you can avoid. And then next to that, in the area of advanced analytics, what we have released is the so-called multi-dimensional service cubes, which basically means it is an optimized analytical cube, basically used by SAP Analytics Cloud. And it stores data in an optimized way, which is very helpful if you have a high volume of data, if you have like a very high cardinality, but on the other hand, do not really have the need for real-time data. So it's basically sort of an intelligent cache where data is stored in the most optimal form. Of course, not real-time anymore, but it allows for high concurrent usage, and it brings significant performance improvements. So there's some more that I wanted to share. Important as database as a cloud, and there's certain capabilities and qualities that customers do expect from a database that runs in the cloud, which is TCO optimization, which is elasticity, which is reliability, dynamic adjustments. And with the latest QSA, we have introduced so-called performance classes, as you can see here on the right side. So there's four performance classes. Oh, by the way, I'm looking to the left here, to my left, because that's where the main screen is. We have high compute, we have compute memory and high memory, and the customers can choose. So if there's like a very high demand for, or there's a need for processing large amounts of data, then you rather go for high memory. If there is high performance and compute intensive workload, the customers can choose for high compute. So they can easily adjust based on their workload patterns what works best and what gives them the best kind of price-performance ratio. And then in the context of what I earlier mentioned, intelligent data tiering in the data tiering pyramid, and we have that in memory part with the column store and the native storage extension. What has been recently released is the HANA NSE Advisor. So NSE was always in place. Now we have the NSE Advisor also enabled for HANA Cloud, and customers can choose the best price-performance ratio. So for data that is small, that is frequently accessed, they rather keep the data in memory. if it's a large amount of data, if it's less frequently accessed because maybe it's outdated data, say like from older years, financial data that is like from 2 years ago, they can reduce the memory footprint by offloading this data onto the native storage extension, which is an in-memory sort of storage, but it is on disk and it release memory for the more performance-intensive or more higher performance requirements. With the native storage advisor, we provide recommendations based on access patterns. What is the best to be kept in memory and what can rather be offloaded. So by this, customers get, and the administrators of HANA Cloud get recommendations on how to best set up to achieve the best price-performance ratio. And last but not least, as we see, the world is moving from on-premise to the cloud, but it is like a process in transition. We have been developing and working a lot on how to support our customers to migrate from their on-premise systems onto the cloud. With the latest release, customers can now do what's called a self-service migration. So there is an assistant service where customers can start migrating their data from an HANA 2 on-premise to a HANA Cloud system. We will go further, as we will see when looking at the roadmap. So what's the strategy and the roadmap, and why do we do this? And there's a couple of, say, like data points that drive our priorities and that drive our roadmap, which is first and foremost the exponential growth of data and the upcoming new data types. So there is significant growth in data up into many, many petabytes that customers want to manage, and they want to leverage that for getting better insights and driving their best decision. We also see hybrid landscapes being more and more the norm, multi-cloud environments being more and more the norm. Customers are not running on one of the hyperscalers. They have, like for historic reasons, they have systems running in different cloud service providers. So multi-cloud is the norm. And HANA is best suited as we have HANA and we offer HANA in all of the major hyperscalers, which I think is a big differentiator. And then also they want to operationalize the machine learning capabilities, meaning using regression functions, deterministic functions, using AutoML, using the predictive analysis library in HANA to automate their processes. And last but not least, it's all about TCO optimization. It's about best price performance ratio. So those are the kind of data points undermined also by what's shown here by what we see from analysts. And that is driving our strategy and our roadmap. And let's look into our roadmap on some of the most important topics that we will work on in the coming months. Smooth integration. I mentioned integration already at the beginning. We will continue to work on migration. We will continue to optimize price performance, provide better tools on enhanced tools for application development, continue to invest into multi-model data processing, and finally, last but not least, in advanced analytics. Let's do a deeper dive into those areas. First of all, smooth migration. We saw the self-service for migrating on-premise instances to HANA Cloud. We will extend that into what's called an online migration. That means that the business-critical systems will continue to run while in the background you start migrating your on-premise instance to HANA Cloud. So this reduces the downtime of the business-critical systems. We will extend the migration capabilities by not only migrating data, we will also provide functionality and services to migrate your metadata, like HDI containers, like security stores, like schema services. So there will be more that is then be covered by the migration scenarios. And last but not least, as I said, the multi-cloud and hybrid scenario is the new norm. We will also support hybrid scenarios, meaning that customers can kind of connect the HANA Cloud instance to their existing on-premise instance. They can replicate data from the on-premise system to the HANA Cloud system and use this for load balancing. The basis is a calculation view, so you don't need to know the underlying database structures. You take an analytical scenario as a basis for the replication to HANA Cloud, and then you can offload process-intensive queries to HANA Cloud and release workload from your on-premise system, like if it's a hybrid, say like OLAP and analytical system, you can OLTP system, you can release analytical workload from your on-premise instance. Next, we continue to work on price performance. One most important, and for many customers, long-term awaited availability is 6 terabyte or more than 6 terabyte sizes of instances. So based on availability in the hyperscaler, we will be able to offer bigger instances that can also cover these huge databases and also help to migrate these huge databases that we sometimes see in the on-premise part. Yeah. In addition to that, and you see that it's been shown on the screen here, is a so-called consumption monitor for HANA Cloud, which is where we think it's all about cost prediction, cost governance, which is a very important topic for many customers. They will know what's going to happen. They will know the financial impact of decisions for, like, say, for the storage class, the instance class, high compute, high performance, high memory. You see here historical data. You see predictions based on your memory footprint, your compute, your storage, and your network usage, and that helps for the customer to better predict on their cost. Historical data being mixed up with predictions here, and we will come up with ARM-based support. It has been announced about 1.5 years ago. We are good to go. HANA Cloud will be available on Graviton AWS processors, which again helps to reduce the TCO, gives a very good price-performance ratio. We see great results, in particular in OLAP scenarios, and I think that's a great step. Adding ARM processor support in addition to the already existing Intel processor support for HANA Cloud. Then we have application development. Application development is all about low-code, no-code again. So we will extend the Business Application Studio. Customers can use graphical modeling tools for data flows, for workflows, for UIs, and then they can further extend into like high-level coding, where they use libraries, data modeling, extension capabilities in a native development environment like CAP, which leads to the next phase is CAP for Data Lake. So the Cloud Application Programming Model, which is the standard on BTP, will be extended, and you can also do this for HANA Cloud Data Lake. And then we will continue also to invest into enhancing our tooling capabilities. One example would be here that the Database Explorer will be available as an add-in for Visual Studio Code. I think I need to hurry up a little bit. All right, so multi-model data processing. We will offer schema definitions for JSON documents, so strict schemas with attributes, domains, and data types, in addition to the flexible schema definitions. And you can also have like mixed scenarios where you have strict schema and mixed definitions together. You can process graph data in JSON documents, so the ability to store data in lightweight format like JSON will also allow us then, or we can use this data even for graph processing. That means like information that is geographical or graph-based data can also be processed on JSON document and not only on structured data. And last but not least, we will release the native vector store database capabilities for HANA Cloud, as has been announced in the keynote by Jürgen Müller, which basically means we allow to vectorize information in a multi-dimensional vector. And multi-dimensional means more than 1,500 dimensions, and you can contextualize information that is stored in text documents. You can contextualize geospatial information. You can contextualize graph structures, and you can run fast query searches on these contextualized data. And you can even combine that with these standard SQL capabilities like joins and filter and conditions and aggregations, which will be a huge enhancement for HANA Cloud in the context of generative AI and the business AI that SAP is offering to our customers. So then on the advanced analytics, we will continue to enhance our AutoML capabilities like new regression support, the forecast and the regressions will exclude marginal outliers to have a better focus on the most frequent values, which also helps to run better regression scenarios using the AutoML capabilities. Next to that, the knowledge graph, which is basically allows us to expose relational data in a so-called knowledge graph with subjects, objects, and predicates. And this enhancement of multi-model data processing capabilities allows customers and enables a lot of use cases like business analytics, situation handling, where you visualize real-time situations, business decision-making, and finally business process intelligence. So efficient analysis of customer business data, and out of that, provide recommendations, for example, for the user. Finally, the embedded similarity search, which is to be seen in the context of the vector store, which allows search on the vector store with similarities, nearest neighbor search in the context of the vector store. So that's a quick run through all the new capabilities that we have planned. What would be next before we move into the Q&A? What could be the next steps for you? So there's a lot of information in the community. There's a channel where you can find a lot of information. You can sign up for the free tier version, and as I always like to say, get your hands dirty on HANA Cloud. And there is a bunch of learning capabilities available on data and analytics. There's free learnings on YouTube. There is currently a discount on exams that helps to expand your network, and it maybe even helps to accelerate your career. We see that many participants are very happy and successfully passing the exam. With that, I would be done with my presentation and my information that I wanted to share. And I would then switch it over to the Q&A. We have a couple of minutes left. And let's see, I have colleagues in the background that have hopefully answered already a lot of questions. But if there is some left, then I can work on that. Elasticity in HANA Cloud. There's a question, is there a plan to deliver elasticity in HANA Cloud? Yeah, we are working on what's called the Elastic Compute Node. That's a way to add the core, which is the index server for those who know HANA Cloud. And that allows to dynamically extend HANA Cloud instance and adding additional compute nodes. That's currently used by SAP applications like IBP, Intelligent Integrated Business Planning. And we are currently evaluating if and how we can provide this to customers. Why do we need HANA Cloud DB? Does it create a hop in integration unnecessary oh, that's now switching, and instead directly upgrade to S4HANA and B4HANA BTP integration? Well, HANA Cloud is basically the database underneath most of SAP's applications. Like S4HANA Public Cloud will soon run on HANA Cloud, like Ariba, like others, like I mentioned, the 160 BTP services that we already have, they are running on HANA. So it's not really necessarily, so you can see HANA as the underlying database for most of SAP applications, and the integration is more going to happen on the application side or on the service side rather than on the underlying database. How well is it improvised with HANA Cloud, single database as a service, database including OLTP OLAP in terms of performance for very high? Now, that question was gone, so it seems that it has been already answered by my colleagues online. So with that, I have no questions here on the Q&A screen. I would say thanks a lot for joining. I hope you found that information valuable, and I wish you a great TechEd, and enjoy the rest of the show. And I hope you find a lot of more interesting sessions that provide insights to various topics all across SAP's technology. Thanks a lot, and hope to see you soon.